Diablo cinematics have set the bar for gaming storytelling since 1997, with the first creating an atmosphere of tension and horror, successfully communicating to the player what they could expect when they took on the RPG themselves. Destruction and death, shrouded by fog and carrion birds descending on human remains, give way to a silhouetted adventurer descending into crypts to fight the ultimate evil. The quality is rudimentary by current standards, but it gripped the imagination not by what it revealed, but the promise of what lay in the shadows beyond. It played well into the theme of expectation. 3 years later, in 2000, the producers took advantage of technological advances and crafted a narrative to add to their presentation of Diablo 2. The remastered version is shown, but a backstory has been added and characters fleshed out on the divine and evil spectrums, as well as the flawed humans in between. Familial connections have been added in the third person, adding to the interest of the viewer. Cutscenes followed the narrative of the game, amping up the horror elements and the despair and suffering of the humans involved. A tone has been set for all the future cinematics here in showing that nothing ends well for the humans involved. Subversion and suffering have masterfully been added to expectation. This is the first attempt at mythologizing the past, which is expertly done through animations on parchments and scrolls, which connect to Deckard's obsession for ancient texts, giving the story more depth and importance to the world of Sanctuary. Diablo 3 leans right into the familial connections from the start, with the returning character of Deckard Cain and the new character of his niece, Leia.
The world must be told of the coming darkness.
The angel Tyrael is literally humanized, adding complexity to the world of angels, expanding his character from the simple, intervening agent of the heavens to a complex and conflicted agent for righteousness. As a man that has sacrificed for the well-being of Sanctuary, he earns an empathetic view from the players. Leia is tormented by visions of hell, in particular from Azmodan, not aware that her virtuous exterior is a constructed facade that is cruelly shed to reveal the demon within. Again, subversion, suffering, and expectation are at the fore, but woven together with empathy for characters we care about. The Diablo 3 expansion, Reaper of Souls, goes a different route, focusing on corruption. The Soul Stone is hidden by the Horadrim, signifying that evil is a corrupting force that is always present and must be guarded against. This time, the corruption reaches one of Tyrael's own, the angel Malthael. As we have no familiarity with him, the cinematic leans heavily into the horror element, showcasing the angel's ability to rip souls from the bodies of his victims. Diablo 4 turns the horror up to 11. All new characters are introduced, all gold-hungry mercenaries, except for one. It's obvious the young man of the group has been caught up with the wrong crowd, as he is more the archetype of a young Deckard Cain, interested in ancient knowledge and esoteric texts, but he and the mercenaries have all been manipulated.
The light protects me.
The ruthless Elias has his motives revealed as wanting to usher in a new era to Sanctuary, one that will end in tears for all its denizens.
Come.
This is the first time Diablo gives us a mother archetype as the nemesis for the story. Lilith is welcomed into Sanctuary in the goriest way possible at the expense of Elias's chumps, imprinting herself as a foe that will be willing to spill a lot more blood before the game is over. The cinematic is as satisfying as it is disturbing, giving players chills, not shying away from the horrors ahead. This leans on expectation, but really, really hard. The later cinematic of the game is where subversion comes in. There is a battle in hell between the parents of Sanctuary, Inarius, the self-absorbed angel, and his former lover Lilith, settle their differences once and for all.
No matter what you tell yourself.
Inarius brings an army of humans that he uses as cannon fodder, as they mean nothing to him. The battle is epic and emotions rage, from the bitter, passionate fight between the two outcasts to the betrayal of the human army as they are crushed by the host of hell. The player rides this emotional roller coaster of this cinematic with the fortunes of the characters, feeling exhausted in the end. Again, this ends poorly for all the humans involved. The final entry is the Diablo 4 expansion, Vessel of Hatred. It's here that every element that made these cinematics epic comes together. The familial connection, the subversion of a mother's love, expectation, and a huge dose of suffering are mixed together for the most disturbing visual display Blizzard have ever put together.
Please, my child, let me help you.
Neyrelle, the child introduced in the gameplay of Diablo 4 as the most caring daughter in Sanctuary, desperate to save her mother from Lilith, but ultimately failing.
But I must carry this burden alone.
She has the prime evil Mephisto trapped in a soulstone and is travelling along a river with a guide headed to Akaret's tomb, their path marked by death and the corruption seeping out of the stone and into her soul. She is tormented by the visions of her mother, which are manipulated by Mephisto, morphing into her own confinement and torturous unravelling of her limbs.
Little magpie.
The body horror is up there, with the best in movies, leaving players uncomfortable in their seats, but at the same time wanting to know more. The expectation is palpable. The subversion is intense, the familial tensions are a wound in Neyrelle's soul, and the suffering is off the charts. Blizzard has hit all of these beats hard, ensuring the players will never forget what they've seen. These cinematics have come a long way from the glinting sword in the ground in 1997.